Hi everyone. USD versus Brazilian. That's USD versus a few different currencies is what we're actually going to be talking a little bit about today. And like I watch a couple other traders on YouTube, in particular Traders Reality, Crown. I do Traders Reality because the way he looks at the market is quite interesting. And very experienced sort of forex trader and now crypto trader as well, stocks, everything. Um, and he mentioned there's a couple of it's probably a week or so ago I heard um, he mentioned that well he started talking about the Japanese carry trade. I think it was when they increased their interest rates, and he actually gave a warning um, about this, and I didn't pay it too much attention just because I haven't really gotten into the carry trade stuff. I've known about it for a few months now, but it's not something I really saw as important. And it would seem that that was probably a mistake because there's some suggestion that this sell off and the speed and volume of this sell off is a lot to do with the Japanese carry trade. And what that basically is people borrow Japanese yen because of the low interest rates on it, and then they go and we're talking big money managers, hedge funds, and stuff like that. So they borrow Japanese yen at low interest rates. They then swap it for US dollars, for instance, or another currency, and then they buy things with that other currency, and then they make money on those other things with that other currency while they're paying very low interest rates on that money. And then what happens is when the interest rates go up on the money they've borrowed, they actually, well, they don't have to, but in this case, it looks like the Japanese government has sort of said to all the big guys, look, we want your money, or we want you to bring the money back into country to help prop up the yen. And that would actually make a lot of sense because if we look at Japanese yen versus US dollar, it has gone through the roof. And this isn't just intervention, really. I mean, could be intervention in terms of the government's telling people to bring it back in, but yeah, at this stage, I don't think the selling is going to stop until this actually stops going up. And there might be a little bit to run yet, but we are at least like we've hit some pretty key levels in here. So maybe maybe it might pause for a little bit, but I don't know. It looks like it wants to go higher, and this is potentially a pretty major global thing. So the euro's enjoying it, and this is the thing too. Like the Dixie is obviously coming down a bit, but the Japanese yen is going up disproportionately. Like it's the run that it's on. No other currency is going on that compared to the US dollar. The Aussie dollar friggin' tanked, but that's an interesting bounce on it. And a lot of the time, actually, the Aussie dollar is part of that whole carry trade mix as well. It gets sort of used a fair bit as part of that trade. So it doesn't really surprise me that that's selling off as well. Sorry, what was I looking at? I was going to have a quick look at the Brazilian for you. Yeah, the Brazilian has hit our first target. Obviously, that'll just depend on the strength of the US dollar and at the moment as to whether it actually finds a support here or not. If it does, the good news is you've probably seen the worst of it for the time being, just because these pushes down are getting less. But at the moment, it kind of looks like it wants to get back down into this 16, well, just into the 16 level. So I guess that's the thing that I missed in terms of just how bad this rundown would get. We've been seeing volume the whole way up. The whole way down. We've seen buying volume the whole way, and to a level that we just haven't seen. Well, I haven't seen it for when I look back, at least even through the run up. I haven't actually looked at the capitulation events from the bear market, but it's definitely there's a lot of buying volume out there. Now the problem is my my CoinAnk isn't working again. I stupidly left it open overnight. Whenever I do that, it shits the bed in the morning. So we can't look at that. I'll look at it tomorrow, but basically it's actually hard to get a read from CoinAnk itself just on where the demand is, where the support's going to be, because there is literally just there's solid pink above, solid blue and yellow below. So realistically, it's anybody's game at the moment. This is an interesting structure, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. But fair bit of liquidity left below, just on the 24-hour. Obviously, we zoom out to the weekly again. Comparatively, not much below, a lot above. It's going to depend a lot on when they stop selling to bring the money back into the Japanese yen. I can't say when that is. Obviously, there's a panic component to the market as well. Once there's big volumes being sold down like that, once we break through key levels, then you get into liquidation events. You get into people just placing big sell orders after they break a key level, things like that, which will tend to help drive the thing down. Sorry, it's probably the 6 month that I want. Just wanted to zoom out again. We did this yesterday. We have, interestingly, taken most of the liquidity that was in this little area here, or using that area as a stop loss. So it's not a bad region for a bounce. It's just whether or not it's going to bounce enough to get us back into this region in here, which would potentially give us a run up to that new all-time high. Obviously, there's a bit of liquidity running down here, down into that sort of 43 area, but not a huge amount. I think this area here is easily going to be taken when we go into the next bear market. I'm not seeing signs yet that this is actually a proper bear market. Okay. This could just be like, I thought this area here was a Wyckoff, like max fear type thing on a Wyckoff accumulation. This area could be. The issue I still have is there's a lot of indicators which suggest we could actually be going lower. And if we do, I think we're probably going a lot lower. So, look, key levels today from a liquidation perspective, I actually have a feeling we will break up into probably maybe 57K area, maybe higher, but at the moment, this pattern needs to play out and it hasn't confirmed yet. So I'll run through what that is. This here still, it concerns me a little bit because there is a fair bit down there. Lots of people going long off this point. I actually, typically when it's been used as a stop loss area for this long, it becomes a bit of a target when price is still close to that. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we hit 52.3 reasonably soon. All right, so back into the main charts. So this concerns me. This is a big breakdown of this trend line. Pretty major trend line going back to the bottom of the bear market. And basically the start of the year. Now, forget about this one for a sec, but if we did a sort of parallel channel thing and said, okay, let's measure off, see what to expect. Funnily enough, it proofs out to be very close to this level here. 15,667. Now, it's a pretty bullish day overall, given that it basically opened on its low from the weekend and has pushed up. And look, it's looks like it will close above the 200 EMA, which is a good sign. This would be a good spot for a bounce, but it's just whether or not we can actually get back into this channel. So you're looking for basically somewhere in this region, potentially even closing this gap here up into the 18,800s over the next few days. And then if we get a second break of this channel, or even if we sort of push up into that and then it pushes lower and rejects off that, then I think 15,600 is definitely a target, and that you're talking bear market territory if that happens. I still don't think that's going to happen. This is kind of giving me mixed signals, but you know, it needs to reconfirm back in this channel, which doesn't, like, it needs that Japanese carry trade issue to resolve itself. Did I join the Trading View competition? No, I didn't. Yeah, I'm not gonna worry about competitions for the time being. I'll might do them later when I've got a bit more time in my normal business. But so yeah, Nasdaq needs to reconfirm inside that channel. Spy's actually kind of got a little bit further that it could probably go. But it's whether or not we're going to do this kind of thing, break down below, and I'll just draw a channel in here for you. Depends where you want to draw this from, but I'd actually probably go like that. If we went from there, you could probably draw a channel somewhere in here. SPY doesn't have a great channel on the run up. Again, this could still go a little bit further into these levels that we were talking about, and I wouldn't be super worried about it. Where are we at? Right now we're at about the 10% correction mark, and that's pretty common in a bull run, particularly late cycle bull run where you've got the acceleration. Yeah, look, we're in a pretty decent supply zone at the moment, so or support zone anyway. Decent volume around this area. You know, another day where we get a bit of down to freak the market out before we go up wouldn't surprise me, but looking for a potential bounce, and it's just whether it's a dead cat bounce or whether we get the bounce and everyone settles down because it's only one indicator and it's only the Japanese carry trade that's being wound back, the Japanese yen carry trade. They're the kind of things that are critical to see play out to see where this is really going. Now, equal weight is down pretty hard, but still sort of within this general region. Not really any time to freak out. The futures actually hit the 200 EMA and bounced off. So that potentially reasonably bullish. I wouldn't be surprised if it comes back down into this and then moves away. So a bit of chop for another couple of days and then push away. Qs, equal weight Qs has broken below. That's actually kind of reclaimed that low there. So the next couple of days are going to be pretty critical, but I'm seeing a bit of support come in, mainly because these candles ended up green on the day, and they're mostly closing above that 200 EMA on the daily, which is a pretty key level, and where a lot of people look to buy on big pullbacks. So XLI got slammed a bit, but it's still just hanging on to this range here. If XLI closes below, that's probably going to be a little bit of a concern. XLY, XLP, yep, it's down, but didn't actually break to new lows. So again, that's kind of a thing suggesting that it's not a huge deal that we got going on now. DJI Gold needs to really hold above this level. If it falls below that level, that will suggest that it'll be a pretty early indicator that, yeah, we're going into recession pretty soon, which we kind of already know anyway. But, you know, I mean, these breaks at these levels here were kind of the first signs of it. But yeah. VIX, we definitely got a massive spike on the VIX. So didn't just hit the 35 or the 45, we smashed through into the 68s. That's a massive level. Like that's 2020 kind of levels nearly. Where's the... So 88 is sort of, or 89-ish was the worst level we got to during the GFC. I think it's just because the speed at which this happened that it's really spiked that high. As you can see, like 45 is reasonably common in a shitty market. Not so common in a decent market. So you sort of that's actually a big spike on the VIX. To me, that suggests that we're getting pretty close to the bottom on this, which is interesting. The VIX, like this spike in the VIX, doesn't necessarily align with the bottom of the SPY. And just let me close that, open that. No, it pretty much did actually. So that's something to keep in mind. Big spike in the VIX suggesting that we're pretty close to the bottom here, at least the local bottom. It's closing pretty high as well, so that's not bad. This indicator here is still pushing higher. So the skew, typically the skew predicted this crash. Like it started to trend down towards the top. And funnily enough, it's been going up as the price has been coming down. So that there to me is another indicator that we've probably found the bottom. Volatility of the VIX has spiked. So DAX, woof. We called the breakout of the DAX actually after that candle. I didn't put a target into it, but that gap there was obviously pretty attractive. Wow. That's a massive spike down. Again, don't know whether that was to do with Japanese carry trade or not, Japanese yen carry trade, but wow. I don't think I'd be trying to catch a falling knife on this one though. Broken below the 200 EMA. We've got a few issues with global unrest as well. I believe the UK's got a bit of unrest at the moment. So UK's got unrest. What's the other one? So Venezuela's got unrest. We've got the issues in Iran and Gaza and Israel. Yeah, look, it's in. There's a bit of turmoil out there. Let's say that. But the market likes to freak people out, and it likes to go up after we get to that noise level that just everyone's freaking out, going, we're going lower. Now the UK got slammed. That's a pretty big slamming as well, which you'd kind of expected. They got unrest as well. Probably need to look into a bit more of a reason why on that one, but high yield has come back but found a lot of support. Still in this bloody range. Like it didn't even break the bottom of this part of the range. So again, is this just a bit of a freak out? It's looking more and more like that. Oh, we actually uninverted for a little bit. So first uninversion tends to still see more upside after it. So again, this is good in terms of it means we're close to actually having the reset that we need, but I wouldn't necessarily say that it's it's time to panic. It's actually more likely that it's finding a bottom at the moment on markets. Copper was looking good in here. It's still in this. It's in our box. Be looking for a strong day on copper as well. What you're really looking for to be bullish on the market is a strong day on copper, strong day on SPY and NASDAQ, potentially NASDAQ breaking back into its channel, as we said. Copper supporting it. Gold's still above our sort of, that's now really a support level. That's not a bad thing either. Silver had a bit of a sell-off though. Silver tends to follow the general market a little bit more. It's kind of in between gold and copper, gold and the general market. Oil looks like it found some buyers, swept the lows here into this key level at 72.2 or thereabouts, and has found some buyers. So oil will be interesting. The fact that oil's been selling off with a lot of global unrest and suggestions of global unrest kind of hasn't really made a lot of sense lately. But again, I think the main thing that hasn't made sense is this what the Japanese yen carry trade unwind has been doing to everything. So look, we are getting into high volatilities. We are very much in the overbought region on the, well, we're in the bullish control region, not necessarily an overbought region. I'd rather think of these as bullish control above that zero level. Very much bullish control once you're in there. If the yen breaks back down below the 40 level, that suggests that this will probably switch around and we may actually get some more upside. We could get upside regardless, just because of the way the money's shifting around and the fact that we have hit key levels on the stock market. So I think percentage of stocks above the 50-day moving average obviously had a pretty big pullback. Everything's pretty well dropped. It's not necessarily in a buy level at the moment. That kind of concerns me. But in this region, it can do anything. Like, it's more once it gets into these regions, and we should have really paid more attention to it when it was up here. I called it out, but the market was still kind of looking strong at that time. Yeah, once this breaks back inside the 40, it's probably time to look again. But again, we're already pretty close to the bearish control zone. So quick break back above that, and you could see markets turning around pretty quickly. There's probably actually a trend line here too. Not really. Not a big fan of trend lines on these sort of indicators anyway, but another down day on IWM or something wouldn't go astray to bring that back and have a bounce off there. Mag 7's obviously down, but it's found some buying. So there is a fair bit of buying being found in the market at the moment at some pretty key levels, like big volume levels. So yeah, I'm not super scared. ARK-K is just kind of the bellwether for the smaller stocks, but it also gets absolutely punished. Looks like it's going to close within this channel. So again, not really panic stations yet. AMD's actually had a positive day. Interesting. Back into this box here. Interesting that it's kind of come back well into these vector candles there. ASX 200. So it needs to actually find some support. Yeah, around this 200 level, really. Didn't really break below these wicks. So again, it's still kind of, it's in a bullish posturing still overall. And then basically we come to crypto and, ETH. Wow, that was low. That's man, if you bought ETH at, what was it, 2056, you probably got a pretty good bargain there. Interesting that it picked up this vector candle wick too. Straight into that wick, found some support at that wick. And there's another interesting one on CME that I'll show you in a sec. That's where I was saying the other day that vector candles can be really handy when trying to see when something's going to stop. And that was a pretty good stopping point. We do have another one down here, but I would expect that one to be a target only really when we come into a full big bear market, global recession / depression kind of market. Right now, we're closing above the 800. We've pretty well cleared this high volume zone. If we had been stuck around this level, then it would be quite a bit more bearish, and we haven't finished the day yet. We've still got 3 hours left. So just be watching for this to close, whether it closes above or below the 800. One of the big issues is we do have a pretty big wick on all of these, really, on all cryptos. So it's whether we have enough strength, whether we have enough buyers in the market to actually bring these things back into these key channels that they've broken out of. That's probably the real thing to watch out for. But it has the potential to come back up. I just don't know that the buyers are going to necessarily be able to do it, and whether everyone gives up on it or not. So head quickly to BTC on CME. Now, this is a really interesting level. Obviously, this is a wick here. Now, that level there, 49,435. The low on CME was 49,365. So $100 lower than that top there. It didn't come into this vector here, which is down to 45,590. And that's pretty much the last vector on CME. Now, obviously, we did clean up a lot of the liquidity that was long liquidity that had their stop losses below this little chunk of trading in there. That suggests we could be done for the time being. There is kind of a trend line here, which it looks like it's trying to get above. But, it's a bit of a coin toss at the moment, to be honest. If you go back to, I think it was yesterday's one where I talked about all the times in the past where Bitcoin has had a weekly bearish engulfing candle, like it did the other day. It tends to not be great for Bitcoin when that happens. Now, it's whether or not we're at this sort of level here, where we get a rundown of 23%, which we've already done, or if we get an overall rundown of, what's that to the low, 52%, which would pretty well obviously be the start of a bearish run, I would think. And I guess the other thing too is, Bitcoin is still a risk off asset. It's a high risk asset. Sorry, it's a risk on asset. When people want to get out of their high risk ones, people get out of Bitcoin. So it's just whether or not there is enough buying interest to actually pull us back into this region and actually take us to new all-time highs. Tough to call, but I'm actually leaning at the moment, closing with where this is looking like closing. My prediction, and obviously these haven't necessarily come true lately with this just free fall from 65k. Probably short term, we may close below this. We may even actually close back up into this region, and then we sell off. And we would sell off probably down at least into that 45 level. There is a fair bit of liquidity around there. We've got the vector candles here. There's also 45-ish is also a key level on the probability bands that Crown has on one of his indicators. I don't have his indicators, by the way, but he showed it in yesterday's video on the monthly. So we have broken below the mid band of his indicators on the monthly, and that typically would suggest that we come down to at least the next couple of levels. And I think we may have hit the first level. Oh no, actually, I think the first level was 45. It was around that 45 level. So look, that there could be a bounce from that, but at this stage, and the other thing too is if you sort of try and take a bit of a measure off this, like we did the other day, if we break from here, lo and behold, you're into that 44.6, close enough to 45. It's looking more and more like that is going to be the scenario that plays out. So I think we would have to see some really solid buying here. And I think whatever this, if there is a last run up, wherever it turns, that's pretty much going to be all we get before the next next big downturn. There's too many things on the markets that are pointing, well, starting to flash recession signals and stuff. So, yeah. And the market is more aware of them than it ever has been. Like, general population is more aware. So it will look different, but at the same time, it's kind of looking potentially very similar to what happened in the GFC and what happened in the Great Depression. So with all that doom and gloom, let's just head over to SPY. Is interesting. I was looking at that on the shorter time frames. Don't worry about these trades. It's not set up for that. Obviously it's got a higher low here. It needs to break above that 200 on the 5-minute. And if it does that, what you're looking for is basically this W formation. So you're looking for it to break above the 200, come back down and probably retest the 200 and the top of this level here, and then move away. So if we do that, and it breaks above this level here, then that's a pretty good sign that we're going to decent, or going on a decent run. And I would suspect it would lead it up into the 538 level, which is probably going to be fairly key level. Yeah. So you've got a previous support zone there. You've got a bit of a gap fill up here, which it'll probably get to. So that's kind of best case scenario on SPY. And if SPY is doing that, then Bitcoin may actually do the same sort of thing. And if you look, Bitcoin may actually be leading us out of this. I'll just look at the NASDAQ, because NASDAQ, like Bitcoin, can lead the general stock market. And tech stocks tend to lead out of downturns. So what we've got here, got a nice W pattern. You actually done a bit of a retest there, moved away, retested that same area again, and it's starting to move away again. Now, what you really want is to see it clear above this. And it's probably, on the shorter time frames, it's probably going to do it like this. It's going to be a lightning bolt all the way up. So you'll come into the 800 EMA, bounce off, probably retest this level again, and then bounce off. That's what you want to see. That would be a really healthy turnaround. This is a pretty good pattern. Those that have followed me for a little bit would know that I am a fan of that pattern. And that seems to be what's happening. So I'll just go to Bitcoin now. Go on bybit. That was a good break of that little channel there. For those in Origin that are wondering, I actually paused the 5-minute ones. I actually paused it back, I think it was after this rundown, after a couple of wins. It did have another 2 wins, I think, but I knew we were kind of coming into some choppy areas, and there was just going to be big swings happening. So I just thought, nah. Oh, this one here would have got a full take profit 3 within the same candle, which would have been pretty spectacular. But yeah, when it's chopping around like this, I decided to pause it. But basically, we've got a W pattern forming here. So we did actually have a little bit of a retest and a confirmation on the shorter time frames here. So it came back in on that 5-minute, back into this zone, and then it's moved away. We even kind of retested the breakout of this. So that's pretty strong. On the higher time frames now, it would have done the same sort of thing. So higher time frame, it's now actually come out, and this is the higher time frame confirmation of that level and move away. What we need to see is that break above the 55. And if it does that before the close of this daily candle, then that's a pretty solid sign that we could go up. I'll be watching that very closely. Yeah, I actually switched to regular USDT trading so that I could actually play with the hedge mode yesterday. Just not being able to actually hedge my position was killing me on the other one. So I missed a few key levels and ended up taking a loss on that inverse perps, just because I didn't get my TP levels that I wanted, which when you get a flush like that, it's unfortunate, but it happens. So yeah, I switched to hedge mode, and I've actually made back pretty well what I lost yesterday already. But yeah, this is key levels, and when we look at this trend line here, and ideally we want to be closing above the 56,745. If we do that, the hash ribbons are still intact. From here, it doesn't look likely, which is why I'm still kind of leaning towards the bear side. So basically, just be careful of any rips to the upside are potentially going to be met with selling demand. That's something we've really got to keep our eyes on. But I think the level of this trend line here is about 55,200. I think for those in Origin, I was calling for about 55k. If we get two closes below 55k, or even one and then a turn to the downside, I'm fully expecting this to go further back into that 45k mark, if not potentially even a bit lower. So yeah, that's very key couple of hours here. 3 hours we've got for Bitcoin to get back up into, just mark that off. Where is it? About there. It's actually really freaking close to doing that. Let's just call it this level here. Oh, what was the other level? Actually, that was let's do it on. Oh, we are on the index. Okay. So, and I think it's typically the close. Actually, I'll go back and have a look at it, and I'll tell you it's tomorrow. But I think you base it off the close, and close is 56,745. If it's the wicks, then we should be okay where we're at. But I will go back and have a look at that. So fuck, I had a look at it and then forgotten it. 56,745. All right. Let's just move this up. 56,745. Should have just clicked on it. That is a possible level. Like, it's just above the 200 EMA, which, you know, we get a break above that and then a retest. It's definitely into these vector candles here, so we could get a pretty quick move up into that. If that happens, this candle's going to look freaking wicked. And typically, as you guys know, when I'm looking at a candle like this, I am expecting it to come back into that wick. Normally, doesn't necessarily have to happen straight away. As you can see here, this one actually took off to the upside and then came back into it over time as well. Like it actually took a while to get back into that, and I'm okay with that. Shorter term timeframes are going to really lead the way on this. This one here was sort of the same, big wick to the downside, went up, but then came back down. It took a couple of weeks to recover that. Where are we? Got a couple more. Big wick, recovered it straight away. And that was kind of a capitulation event similar to what we've got now. So that's a bit of a red flag, bit of a be careful. This one took a bit longer, bit of sideways action and then down. Same with this one, sort of chopped sideways and then down. And that was kind of after a run to the downside off the top. So that's probably fairly similar to what we're looking at the moment, to be honest. There's a bit of doom and gloom for you. It's going to come down to short-term timeframes and trading here. This one obviously closed below the 200 EMA as well, closing, but again, it's after one of these weekly bearish engulfing. Yeah, that's That's potentially what we're in for. And that move down like that would sort of be similar to what we would expect it to do, down into that 45K region. So again, off the highs, a little bit different there in that it was a fairly temporary pullback in a bull market. So maybe this is more what we do. That would be a best case scenario. So basically for the rest of August, we kind of chop sideways and down to get back into that 45 level and then head up. 11 bars, that's, sort of half a month from that level before it started taking off again. But again, different economic times too. 21 was pretty good time in the economy. We're not really in that time. Obviously, that was the Corona dump, but again, bearish engulfing on the weekly led to pretty big dump. That one there didn't really get recovered for a long time. So, and that was after sort of the run up after the bear market, some bit of consolidation. Didn't come back down to that until, a lot later, but still well before the actual bull run. So I guess it's just be careful. For those that are buying and holding, I guess it depends how long you're going to hold it for. If you're holding it for 10 years, I wouldn't sweat it too much. If you're looking to try and buy now and sell the top, we may have missed it, but yeah, it's going to be a very interesting week on the markets. Like this week will really tell you everything. Pay attention to the 15-minute time frames on NASDAQ and SPY as well. Yeah, short term, even if we do close below this level and we end up, the Bitcoin just shits the bed and goes that 45K or lower, don't be surprised if we do still get runs up into these levels. There is still a lot of liquidity up there. There's a lot of sell orders up there. There's a lot of short liquidity. So short squeeze is kind of what we want. Short squeeze happens generally pretty quickly, and we want that to happen in the next 2 hours, preferably, and for it to really solidify above this 56,745 level. That's kind of where I'm at. Hopefully this is helpful. This looks like a pretty good bottoming pattern. Just got to make sure it actually confirms. And then, hopefully tomorrow we've really solidified this base and we move to the upside. But just be careful. I wouldn't be trying to hold positions for too long, put it that way. If we do, looking at the CC indicator as well, that's actually not a bad buy level. Obviously, he's seen a lot of volume down around that bottom as well, so pretty good level. I think, obviously, it looks like it wants to go into that supply level, and I think it should probably break that level. If it does break that level, then 59K does look pretty attractive for it. That is where we're probably going to see a bit of resistance and a bit of a nervous market. It's just whether this is going to be climbing the wall of worry. And like, I'm worried. So hopefully it does climb that wall of worry. Mainly because I actually have a long open at the moment, which I have actually edged off, but don't have it open. Yeah, that's pretty well where I'm at today. hopefully that helps. I'll have a look into that TradingView competition. Thanks for that, Joshua. I'll catch you later.